Hello everyone, today I'm going to be talking about my favorite cEDH commander, Tayam Luminous Enigma. Reads, it's 1 an Abzan for a Nightmare Beast. Each other creature you control enters the battlefield with an additional vigilance counter on it. 3 mana, remove 3 counters from among creatures you control. Put the top 3 cards of your library to your graveyard, then return a permanent card with converted mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. This is official art. This is the altar I made. It's a Abzan deck. It wins by getting infinite activations, any of a vast number of combos, many of which I will talk about in this video, but let's find more. But uses some stacks pieces to help delay other people, slow them down. Uses some value pieces, some counter pieces. If you're looking for a no bad cards list, this is not for you. Play lots of bad cards to help advance our plan. But first, just gonna look at some of the stacks pieces we run, and then get into the rest of the deck and all the combos. So first we're going to talk about our stacks package. One of the main things we do is rule of law effects. Deafening Silence is definitely one of the best for us because cast primarily creatures, and so it slows us down the least. Aethersworn Canonist is probably the worst. We have less artifacts than a lot of other decks, so it doesn't slow other people down as much. Eidolon of Rhetoric, just straight 1 card per turn. Got a solid toughness, which makes it harder to deal with. Then Archon of Emeria is one of the better ones because it's also giving non-basics enter tapped. So it's that as well. Look at some of the other stacks pieces. A Disruptor Flute. This is a very targeted thing. We'll do this. So someone's playing Sisse, it's gonna be a problem. Get a Disruptor Flute, Thrasios, any of the other big activated ability people. Especially if there's multiple people running the same one, where you know that's gonna be a problem. You can do that. If not, you can see when someone's about to go off and flash it in. Next is Aven Interrupter. Doubles as some protections with the plotting the spell, as well as making spells cast from graveyards or exile cost 2 more. It makes breach lines way harder. It affects Atali. It affects like Rouse with all their cast from exile things. Does a lot. Then Opposition Agent and even Mind Sensor as Tutor Hate are some of the best to get into any deck, because every deck runs tutors. It's best into things like Sisse or Rocco or Magda, where their whole thing is searching their library a lot, and it will specifically slow them down a lot, but it also just will hit everybody and get you value. And got a Dranith Magistrate, and so Magistrate is more of a meta call. You can see whether or not it's necessary and decide from there. And same with Chains of Mephistopheles. Chains is a very fun card. It's an older card, but it doesn't make people, keeps people the same on cards, but it doesn't let people go up, which is very good. It's very heuristic heavy meta right now, and being able to bring it in off an activation in response to a wheel is the funniest shit ever. It just makes everyone mill 7, and just amusing. Next, we'll start looking at some of the combos. Before getting into the combos proper, we're going to take a look at some of these cards that are good. The first top, we've got pseudo haste enablers for activated abilities. So very important. Well, and will help us with a lot of the combos by letting you do stuff at instant speed with stuff you just brought out, or just go faster. And then Orcish Bowmasters and White Plume Adventurer are the things that we will, for most combos, what we will be looping and as our finisher, whether OEM with its ETB ping, or White Plume going through the initiative and killing everybody with trap. So these are very important. Both a 1,000-year elixir and Typhar also give you an untap on a creature, which can be helpful. White Plume gives you an untap if you play it earlier. OBM does solid stuff into this drawing cards heavy meta as well, so they're all just solid cards as well as very important. Now we'll start looking at some of the combos. First up, we'll discuss what is known as the floating loop. For this, you're going to typically want one of the haste enablers in play. For most of these, you can assume that you're going to want Tayam in play. Then we need a mana enabler for lets creatures do mana. Rishkar is probably the worst, but being a creature helps it. Earthcraft, if you have a basic, is one of the best because it's a pseudo haste enabler for that, because you can tap it even if it's summoning sick. And then Cryptolith Rite and Enduring Vitality are very similar. During the creature, when it dies, it can come back as an enchantment. It's very solid. Then you want a sack outlet. Ashnod's Altar can be helpful, but really for this you want either Bartolome del Presidio or Carrion Feeder, which get the counters on them, and then Undying Creature. Right now, I'm just on Young Wolf. There are plenty of people who will also run Strangle Rootgeist, but I'm not currently on that. So the way it works, we'll just say it's these three and Tyvar in play with your commander. So you're going to need to have 1 mana floating. It's called Floating Loop. And then you'll tap the Young Wolf for a mana, tap the Carrion Feeder for a mana, sack the Young Wolf to the Carrion Feeder. It will get a counter. Young Wolf will come back untapped with a counter. And a Vigilance counter from Tayam. Then tap the Young Wolf for 1 more mana and 1 floating. Use 3 of it to activate Tayam. In response to the activation, so you will sack the Young Wolf, bring it back, and then this gives you activations. You can pivot. It's semi-convoluted line that I will often mess up and play, but so I don't tend to go for it as frequently, but it's important to know about. Next, we'll look at some of the other combos. As well as the Devoted Druid and Incubation Druid line we talked about, you can also anything that makes it tap for 3, so that can be Incubation Druid as well, or if you have Abzan, it can be Bloom Tender or Faber Elder. Then Patrol Signaler, which is untap for 1 and a white, create a 1/1 white Kithkin Soldier token. Do that with Tayam in play. If you've got Abzan, so give you infinite black and green mana, or it can, with Incubation, it can be any color, as well as with creating the tokens, they'll enter with a Vigilance counter, so it's infinite counters as well. Once again, if it's Incubation, you can just do the adapt for counters. And that gives you infinite activations. If you don't have Tayam in play, Walking Ballista is an option as well, whether casting it infinitely large with infinite mana, or just having it in play. Marvin will have the abilities, so you can put counters and remove the counters for damage. Next, we'll talk about some other ways to combo with these pieces. The focus of this next session will be about Devoted Druid. Devoted Druid is a very solid ability where it can untap by putting a -1/-1 counter on it. So with Tayam in play, if we get its toughness enough that you can put 3 counters on it, that's infinite activations. Cards that we run pretty much just for that. Got Centaur Guard in. If you have Threshold, which is not hard to get in this deck, then pay a green, sacrifice it. Target creature gets +3/+3 until end of turn. You give the Devoted Druid +3, taps for a mana, untaps for a counter, taps for a mana, untaps for a counter, taps for mana, untaps for a counter. Activation, remove the counters, you can repeat. You can also do that with Allosaurus Shepherd. Doesn't require Threshold. Is a bit more of an upfront mana investment though. But it will turn the Devoted Druid into a 5/5. So it's an elf. It also has combos Marvin Murderous Mimic, which is a very important card for this deck, and Incubation Druid. So Incubation Druid has pay 5, adapt 3, and then it has tap, add 1 mana of any type that a land you control could produce. If it has a +1/+1 counter, add 3 instead. So what you're going to do is you're going to adapt onto Marvin, putting 3 counters. You will then tap it for 3 mana, untap it, putting a -1, removing one of the +1s, tap it for 3 mana, untap it, tap it for 3 mana, untap it, adapt again, and once you do that and have infinite mana, you start activating Tayam, removing counters, and that's in loop as well. Next, we'll discuss some other ways to combo with Marvin, as well as the Devoted Druid and Incubation Druid line we talked about. You can also, anything that makes it tap for 3, so that can be Incubation Druid as well, or if you have Abzan, it can be Bloom Tender or Faber Elder. And then Patrol Signaler, which is untap for 1 and a white, create a 1/1 white Kithkin Soldier token. Do that with Tayam in play. If you've got Abzan, so give you infinite black and green mana, or it can, with Incubation, it can be any color, as well as with creating the tokens, they'll enter with a Vigilance counter, so it's infinite counters as well. Once again, if it's Incubation, you can just do the adapt for counters. And that gives you infinite activations. If you don't have Tayam in play, Walking Ballista is an option as well, whether casting it infinitely large to infinite mana, or just having it in play. Marvin will have the abilities, so you can put counters and remove the counters for damage. Next, we'll talk about some other ways to combo with these pieces. The other main way we'll combo with these pieces is Necrotic Ooze. Whereas with Marvin, need all the cards on the battlefield, Necrotic Ooze, need them all in the graveyard. The easiest way to do that is with a Survival of the Fittest. Let you just pay green to discard a creature and search for a creature. So if you have any of these creatures in hand, you can discard it to start the chain. If you don't, it's just 1 extra mana. Discard and go grab them. Then once they're all in the yard, you can get Necrotic Ooze. You can either get it to hand, try to cast it. If it gets countered or it goes into your graveyard, you run a couple options to reanimate it, because it is a 4-drop, which makes it too big to be recurred by Tayam. So for that purpose, you run Shifting Woodland, Emperor of Bones, and Pulse Mage Advocate. So all of these are ways that we can get it out of the graveyard onto the battlefield. Shifting Woodland, pay 4. And as long as you have Delirium, bring it back. With Emperor of Bones, just go to combat, exile it from your graveyard, and then pay 2 mana to adapt onto it, and can put it onto the battlefield with haste. And a finality counter. Generally, finality counter won't matter. You can either got Tayam, can remove the finality counter. If you don't, you're trying to win the turn you bring it in anyway. Then Pulse Mage Advocate, you'll return 3 cards in opponent's graveyard to their hand, and then return it into play. You'll look at cards that either will be helpful to you for them to have back in hand, or won't be helpful to them. For Shifting Woodland, if it's been in play already for a turn already before you do it, it'll be hasty, or it won't have Summoning Sickness. Emperor of Bones gives it haste. Pulse Mage does not, so you're gonna want to have one of the haste enablers, and then just do the line, tap it, untap it, infinite mana. If you've got Tayam in play, you can win with that, or you can just do Walking Ballista. This is one of the main Tayam agnostic win lines most decks will typically run. Other ways, this is one of the few bigger than a 3-drop creatures run, but currently testing one more, so we'll discuss that next. The other larger creature I'm currently testing is Protein Hulk. Can get it back with Emperor of Bones. Isn't as good for it unless you have Tayam in play to remove the finality counter, but Shifting Woodland and Pulse Mage can get it just fine. It can grab the entirety of any of the combos discussed so far, and I'm going to further. Also, specifically running, because of Hulk, as another Tayam agnostic line, got Samwise Gamgee and Cauldron Familiar, so this cat combo. You can grab those if we don't already have a sack outlet in play, then a sack outlet as well. And like one of the stacks pieces mentioned with the rule of law effects, if you have to grab a sack outlet, it'll be the Aethersworn Canonist. If not, probably grab Archon of Emeria. But Samwise, you have center, you get a food. You'll sack, each opponent will lose a life and you'll gain a life. You'll sack the Collagen Familiar to the sack outlet. Then sacrifice the food you've got, bring it back, and just loop. So currently running list pretty specifically for Hulk. Hulk is a test slot. There's a high chance it comes out at some point, and might replace it with something like Nature's Rhythm. There are a couple of other bigger cards that people play. Some people on Bright Glass Gear Hulk, which is 2 green, 2 white. I believe it's when it enters, you search for 2 1-drops. For people, so it can be very helpful. For people on Leyline of Abundance, where it increases mana and can put counters on things. It's most helpful as a pre-game. If you draw into it, it's not bad to cast. If you really wanted to, you could have a Shifting Woodland turn into it if it goes to grave. And there have been people experimenting with Colossal Grave Reaver, which gives you extra cards off every activation. Next we'll look at if there's one more combo that I'm going to discuss, and we'll look at the rest of the deck. The last combo to discuss is one of the few A plus B, just 2-card combos run. There's the 2 we got with Devoted Druid. It does, of course, so especially require Tayam to be in play, because it's just giving you infinite colorless mana. But it's Basking Brood Scale plus Longfang Grand Secretariat. Basking Brood Scale is pay 1 to green, adapt 1. Whenever one or more +1/+1 counters are put on it, create Eldrazi Spawn. And then Longfang is whenever another creature or land you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. So once you have both of these in play, you can adapt. If you have a fetch land, you can crack that. If you have a sacrifice outlet, you can sacrifice a creature. And from there, you'll put a counter on the Brood Scale. That will create a token that you can sacrifice for a colorless mana. You'll sacrifice it, create a trigger, put a counter, and you can just do that as many times as you want. Infinite mana from the spawns, infinite counters on the Brood Scale, infinite Tayam activations. Brood Scale also combos with Rosy Cotton, which that one is whenever you create a token, you put a counter. But you can choose to run it instead of or alongside Longfang. I'm just chose Longfang for my deck. But this one, as with most of the combos, does require Tayam to be in play. This one doesn't require Haste Enabler, which can be helpful. Of the combos discussed, other than the Tayam agnostic win ones, the Marvin lines with Incubation Druid, it's one of the few you can do pre-Tayam in play, because that can give you infinite of every color and let you cast Tayam. Next, we're just going to look at the rest of the deck and go through, discuss choices, go through some of the cards that are bad in most cases, but good in this deck. We can go through the deck, discuss reasons for including cards, and feel free to ask more questions in the comments. But it's got a command tower, ghost quarter, misty rainforest, soul ring, overgrown tomb, wooded foothills, mox diamond. Mox diamond is a card that not everyone is on. I find it the easiest of the moxes to be on for this deck. Opal is definite no, there are not enough artifacts. Chromox requires you to exile something. Mox Diamond just requires an extra land in play, but if you need to, you can bring back off an activation. Savannah, Worldly Tutor. This one's one I've got in German. It can bring stuff. It can get you stuff you needed before. You can cast it in response to an activation and bring exactly what you need to get. Green Sun Zenith. The deck is primarily green, so it gets you a lot of the stuff you need. You can just cast it for a Dryad Arbor on turn 1 if you want, or with the mana and get most of the things you need. Windswept Heath, Flooded Strand, Ranger Captain of Eos. This one, it's got the Crack It for Silence. It lets you tutor 1-drops, which be relevant especially for Floating Loop. Young Wolf and Carrion Feeder are both 1-drops, so if you can get into play, tutor up one of them, sacrifice it, bring it back in, tutor up the other. If you have the other pieces, good to go. Scrubland, Agatha's Soul Cauldron. Agatha's Soul Cauldron, you can get stuff out of other people's yards. If you exile Walking Ballista with it, there can be loops. You can do stuff with the Undying Creature, Young Wolf, and a sack outlet. Or I don't even think you need a sack. I haven't actually done it in the game, but the counter on it, remove the counter, and it's better with a sack outlet, I think. So you can bring it back, counter, shoot something. But the stuff there, stuff from opponents' yards, do a lot of good things. Weathered Wayfarer, so it lets you search your library for lands if you have less than other people, so it can be a good tool to help you get back from being low. If you can very regularly, you'll do it before you play a land, and you can play the other one, but most frequently you'll be grabbing Cradle. Acacian Money Changer. This is one of the top examples of a bad card that is good in the deck. It's 1 white mana for a 0/2 that enters with 3 credit counters and bolts you when you cast it. And then you put a counter on each upkeep. You can sack it in your upkeep to gain a life for each count of the credit counters on it. But it's a 1-drop, comes in with enough counters for an activation, and it can grab more if you let it sit there. Then Warden of the Grove, very solid card. It grows, gets counters on it each end step, makes other creatures endure. If you have Tayam in play, especially if it's low on counters, you're gonna want to endure to get more things with the vigilance counters. If you don't have time in play or it's gotten really high, you can choose to put the counters on things. And there's also our stuff, just like the Young Wolf with the Undying, where you are always going to choose Endure because you don't want to have the counters on it to start because you want the Undying trigger to go off. Got Gaia's Cradle. There are loops you can do with this, with the Sylvan Safekeeper, and I think currently in my deck, the best you can do with it is with Incubation Druid. There are also cards you can run specifically with that, such as, I can't remember, there's a 1-drop with Level Up that does things, but don't currently run that card. There's a Summon Ixion. It's a Saga creature, so you can remove the lore counters. It exiles something when you put the first counter on it, and it puts counters on things for the second and third. So it does a lot of solid stuff. It's removal that you can repeat by removing counters, or if you need to, you can let it get the second to put more counters on things. There's Boseiju. Just destroy is most of the relevant stacks pieces against this, such as Grafdigger's Cage or Cursed Totem. Deathrite Shaman can get rid of stuff from people's graveyards as well as just mana. Verdant Catacombs, Phyrexian Tower can be a sack outlet in a pinch. Arcane Signet, also not everyone is on it. I have found it helpful many times, so I run it currently. Ancient Tomb, Mana Confluence, Horizon Canopy, only source of card draw in the entire deck. Formidable Speaker, which will put something to grave, grab you a relevant creature, and you can untap something. Whether that's a Cradle, just something that will tap for more, something like a Bloom Tender or Fabero. It's a good card. Crop Rotation, Japanese, sack something, grabs land. You all know what it does. Gavany Township, you can pay 4 mana, tap it to put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. So it can turn mana into counters if you're high on mana, short on counters, which is the more frequent position. Patrolling Peacemaker. Whenever opponent commits then here's the 2 counters. Whenever opponent commits a crime, proliferate. There are crimes committed frequently. It will proliferate and give you plenty of counters. It comes in with at least 2 if you don't have Tayam, 3 if you do, and proliferates everything that you want to hit. Arid Mesa, Avacyn's Pilgrim, Cavernous Souls. This is also, you can run it or not, it's up to you. You can choose to have it be on Tayam and pick something to make him uncounterable. There aren't anything that shares a type with him, so you can do that. People don't regularly counter Tayam, it depends on your meta. But you can also choose something like Elf or Druid to up your Dork's land. Marsh Flats, Felia Exuberant Shepherd. It can temporarily get rid of something that's stopping you. It can bounce something to get you another ETB. It can get counters. It's a good card. Temple Garden, Elves of Deep Shadow, Gemstone Caverns, Felithar Dawn of the Abzan, sack something to get counters and everything. Currently planning on cutting it. I just haven't got the card to replace it yet. Which will be Abigail Eloquent First here. It's a very solid card. You can either blank an opponent's creature, or you can just blank something that isn't being super relevant, like a dork or something, and get 3 counters. Vampiric Tutor, same as the Worldly, you can do it in response to an activation. You can grab anything you need, not just a creature, so it's nice. Basic Forest for Earthcraft, same with this basic Plains. Talon Gates, City of Brass, Touch the Spirit Realm. You can channel it to get rid of something temporarily. It can also come from Yard. It's one of the things you can hit if you have infinite activations with a Grafdigger's Cage. This is one of the things you can hit and get rid of the cage. Dryad Arbor. You can grab it for 1 from GSZ. It's also a fetchable creature that will come in with 1 more with a counter from Tayam. So if you crack a fetch that can grab a forest, you can grab this. A Wall of Roots. A very solid card. Accumulates counters to add mana. It is limited to once a turn, but you can do it every turn cycle. If you have it and Marvin in play, and any other mana encounters that can get you activations each turn cycle, because it and Marvin will give you 2 mana and 2 counters, so if you have other sources of both of those things. Sylvan Safekeeper. Mentioned it can reset lands like Cradle. It can be protection for stuff if you need it. It's a very solid card. Moonshadow. It's 1 black. Comes in with 6 -1/-1 counters. You do remove counters when stuff hits Yard, but if you have the mana and really want to save the counters, you can just activate in response. So you can activate once, remove 3 counters, before letting that resolve activate again, remove the other 3 -1/-1s. And then you get yourself a 7 mana, 7/7 with Menace. Which typically isn't relevant, but it can be if you need to pressure life totals. There's also a more loopable 1-drop than the Money Changer due to it not bolting you on ATB. Got Delighted Halfling. This can make your Tayam uncounterable, your Bartolome, your Marvin, your Longfang. Birds of Paradise, Abundant Countryside. Just got this in, but the restriction is not that big of a deal because it is 50 is literally more than half the deck is creatures. Got a Bayou, Knights of Autumn. Can destroy a relevant artifact or enchantment, or enter with more counters. Or if you really need to and none of the others are relevant, which if there isn't a relevant artifact enchantment, you should just put counters on it, but you can gain 4 life if you really want to. And there's Badger Mole Cup, which is a very good card. It makes your creatures all tap for extra mana, which is very good. Makes it easier didn't mention it in the combo section, but if you've got, so it makes it easier for Marvin to combo with Patrol Signaler. that's Marvin Patrol Signaler, because Marvin can tap for 2, tap it, untap, and that will get you infinite creatures. Patrol Signaler and Earthcraft with a basic can also, you tap it to Earthcraft, if you hit and have the mana, you'll untap it, create the token, it'll get you infinite tapped tokens. But Vaginal Cub is a very solid card. You can also remove the counter from the land, and then they're returning it tapped is a trigger. It's in yard. It will trigger after the Tayam activation. So if you want to, you can return the land from off the activation if it's something relevant that you want in untapped. And then last card, Skyclave Apparition. It's another thing. You can just hit something, mana value 4 or less, which is a lot of problem cards. There aren't many things that are that much bigger. They'll create a token when it leaves, but that's not too big of a deal. So it's this deck. I find it very fun. It is the deck I typically take to tournaments. I have top cut on it once in a over 200 player tournament. Most recent tournament is a very nearly top cut. Lost last game to turn 3 breach when I. So it's very fun. It can do a lot of interesting stuff, a lot of convoluted stuff. If you're picking it up, I'd recommend practicing it a lot, gold fishing a lot, playing without expecting to win a lot. I played it every day for a month straight when I first picked it up. That just really helped, increased my level of confidence in the deck. Also, I have the link to the Tayam Discord in the description. Check it out. There's lots of very helpful people. It's very active. You can ask questions you have. You can just learn more about the deck there. Also, the deck is a lot of variety. There, many people in the Tayam Discord have said the considering cards list can be several hundreds. If your deck is different from other people, don't worry. Most Tayam decks are different from each other. You can start with copying someone's list and then adjust it to fit your meta, your play style, just however you like. So I find it really fun. It's, like I said, it's convoluted. It's knowing how to and when to play stacks is something you need to learn. Knowing how to politic be a big thing. So it can often be a problem where someone removes a stacks piece, doesn't win, isn't going for a win, just wants to do something, and it just opens it up for someone else. So you need to know how to politic to not have that happen. But, well, it's my favorite deck I've played, so be sure to give it a try. I'll have a link to my list, to the Tayam Discord, in the description down below. Be sure to check both of those out. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments. Please like and subscribe. Bye.